Welcome to Knafs Night. I'm Ben, and today I have a special guest, Matt Elliott from Worksharp, is with us today. We're going to be talking about his time in the Benchmade gun debacle of 2019, as well as Worksharp. We're going to be talking about the Lander 5 Kickstarter. Today is the very last day of that Kickstarter. And Matt, what have you got over there?
I have Knafs Vegemite and soggy toast.
And we're going to eat it. It'll be great.
Let's go!
Okay guys, this story begins in 2019. I was working at Blade HQ. Matt, where were you working?
I was at Benchmade
Knife
Company.
Benchmade Knife Company. I hear that the 940-2 is your favorite.
It's one of my favorites. The Rift is actually my favorite, so we're using this as a shoe-in for
placeholder.
Now. Yeah, placeholder.
So there I am working at Blade HQ 2019, and this firestorm starts to happen on the internet.
Dumpster fire? Yeah.
Dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. So you're at Benchmade.
Yep.
What was your position there at the time?
I was the director of marketing.
Director of marketing. I'm the marketing manager at Blade HQ, and I'm watching, and my understanding is the Oregon Police Department started, they had destroyed a bunch of guns, or they had given guns to Benchmade to destroy. Mm-hmm. These were confiscated firearms. And then the Oregon City Police Department had posted on Facebook that they were destroying these guns.
Yeah.
What happened next on your end?
Well, on my end, when that got posted, I was actually returning from the National Wild Turkey Federation show, and I was on a plane. And I landed, and when I turned my phone on, I had like 100 text messages.
Wow.
One of them from our e-commerce manager that said, "Call me right now, as soon as you land."
Wow.
Yeah, thought someone died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with it, what happened was basically the internet gathered this post from Facebook, and they were like, Benchmade hates guns, Benchmade is terrible, so it was basically like this one event started to turn it into a firestorm. So you get on the phone, what happens next at Benchmade? And this rolled for like 2-3 weeks, months?
Yeah, I mean, the heart of it was at least a month long. I wound up driving straight to work, and we were in the office until the wee hours of the night, just trying to figure out what to do about it. Because as soon as Oregon City Police Department grabbed it, put it up on their page, it ended up on some news feed somewhere, and then it effectively got syndicated nationally.
I mean, it was on like Gear Junkie. It was on if you were following any sort of like outdoor knife news at the time, this was like the biggest news of all. So I'm sitting in the driver's seat at Blade HQ, and people are like, nope, not buying Benchmade anymore. It was like a boycott. There were like brand boycotts.
Yeah.
How did you handle it? What was going on internally?
We didn't know what to do at first. I definitely got a number of calls the next morning from people that we were closely connected to that had had similar experiences at other brands that were offering their support. They'd been through similar things. I wound up calling the National Shooting Sports Foundation and talking to their PR person there.
This is who organizes SHOT Show, so a pretty big organization.
Yep, it just to figure out like, what do we do? We hadn't dealt with a crisis like this before. The advice I got was, well, you're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't. And their advice was, don't do anything, which we did not follow their advice.
What did you do instead?
We had Les record. We recorded a video with Les talking to the camera about the situation. It actually, what really blew up in the end wasn't that initial thing. That was a big deal. And then somebody went and looked at the campaign contributions, and it turned out that they were, the two senators that we have in Oregon are both Democrats.
Both Democrats. It's a blue state.
It's a liberal blue state. And those senators, Les was very interested in and supportive of manufacturing education. And both of those senators, Ron Wyden, I don't remember who the other one was, they'd helped Les to support these programs, provide trade schooling and scholarships for kids who wanted to become machinists. Well, they also happened to not be the most pro-gun guys, so it wasn't a good look in combination.
So you're destroying guns on the one hand for the local police department. Your company is now donating to anti-2A politicians.
Right.
And you're trying to navigate this.
Yes.
What was the theme? Like, what were you trying to tell people in that moment?
We wanted to tell people from Les's honest position that why he was giving those campaign contributions, that it wasn't about guns or not. It was about the education, manufacturing, and be able to convey some sort of a message to people that Les actually liked guns like I do. Like
Yeah.
Les and I have been to Texas together and flown in helicopters and shot pigs and been on and shot guns with night vision. He had a gun safe full of guns. He
Yeah.
wasn't an anti-2A guy at all.
So I always had this question because I'm sitting in the marketing seat at Blade HQ, and we did some weird stuff back in the day. That was just how we did, and we still do space cats and stuff, right? I always thought, why don't they take less in a field with a 9mm, do some target shooting, maybe run some rounds through that gun and say, any questions?
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you take this really brash approach to it? Like, why was it so measured?
Because I didn't think, based on the story that was out, that would then be seen as a authentic story. Like, oh, well, now they're showing Les shooting guns.
Interesting.
And like, how do they actually know that Les loves guns or is into it? All they would see was us trying to paint some media story to prop up an image that had already been hurt with that community.
So, do you think you handled it correctly?
No.
What would you do differently?
I would have done what I saw Black Rifle Coffee and Evan Hafer do, and they ended up on both sides of a challenging thing related to the issue with the kid who shot the other people in Michigan or Minnesota somewhere.
Wearing a Black Rifle t-shirt, right?
Yeah, that whole thing. I would have instead just made one single post that if people wanted to, they could pick up or not on our social media pages with no comments associated with it, explaining exactly what it was, why we did it, and left it at that.
Interesting. What a moment. Was there anything, and I remember this was weeks. It just felt like it was sort of this powder keg that exploded.
Yeah, it was.
And it kind of rippled across the whole knife industry. Were there any interactions within what you were doing at the time that really stood out to you?
Yeah, there were two. One was an well, there were three. There's a local news guy named Lars Larson, who had always been a Benchmade supporter, who's very far-right conservative, who called and just did what was a nice support piece, because he knew Les well and knew that wasn't the truth of the story. Otherwise, being in the position he was in, he wouldn't have done that. Yeah. So that felt good. I did another interview after having a night out with my wife and my sister, just like hanging out. It was early in the morning that our PR guy didn't do good research around, that it turned out there was some other sort of conflicting story, like conflicting interests. And the guy I was interviewing with, it was kind of like a gotcha story, and I didn't know, and I was tired, and I didn't know how to handle it well, and I've learned since more about what he was asking me about, that I could have been more informed to answer the questions, and I didn't feel like I showed up well as a representative of the business.
What a strange experience, because it felt like, at least from a Blade HQ marketing manager perspective, Benchmade was tactical, military, like
at the core. That's where the butterfly is.
Yeah. I mean, like literally, like you go to SHOT Show, Benchmade is full of tactical dudes that all use firearms.
Yeah.
Did it feel like your own people had just turned their backs on you? They were just like, you guys are idiots?
I felt like, I don't know if I would say that. It felt hurtful, and I felt downtrodden about it, because I did feel like, I don't know if like they turned their back on us or if we did them wrong, but it did feel like a significant part of an important core base to us at the time. The trust had been broken regardless of why. Or
were you almost talking past each other at that point?
I'll tell you, like being someone who hunts and like, I like tactical stuff and I like shooting guns.
Like you're wearing guns. Kiwi pants.
Yeah, right. Like... This was the third conversation I had that was meaningful, is when customers would call and we were sending everyone to customer service when they were calling in. And when they would call and the customer service agent just really couldn't sort of calm them down or talk them through it or make sense of it or work through the conversation, I would have them send that call to me. And so I would be then talking to people who were frustrated, and I'm on the brand side, but I understand their position, and I'm like, I probably would have a fun day at the range with this guy shooting guns, but we're on two different playing fields right now trying to talk through it. And by the end of it, we would end in a good place. But that was more of it. It's like, I'm also a part of what that community was. Like no one would talk to me, look at me any other way than that. It's like out at the range or hunting, and I'm also a representative of a brand. And so knowing that and being who I am, it allowed me a unique position to be able to navigate that well, which is, I mean, I was the director of marketing, so I'm in charge of the brand and PR, but also because of who I was and what my interests are, it was also a logical alignment to be sort of the spearhead for that.
Yeah.
But it was quite the contrast, and I wouldn't trade it. Other than I would have done it differently.
Yeah. Why do you think it exploded as big as it did?
Well,
I mean, these were confiscated guns. They had to be destroyed, according to the police department.
Sometimes they were confiscated, and sometimes they were forfeit. So these were guns that were like, maybe it was a hot SKS that had the serial number scratched off that was found with somebody who was like a meth head or whatever that had stolen. Or maybe it's the gun that a father, their child had killed themselves with it, and they would bring it into the police department and say, I don't ever want to see this gun again.
Make this go away.
And make this go away. And so they would take those, but they didn't have the means at the police department to destroy them. Now, of course, it's like a simple angle grinder to do that, but they just didn't have that there.
Right. Police departments are not known for their angle grinders.
No. We had a law enforcement team. They had to deal with the Oregon City Police Department. You can come in, we'll do this in like relative secrecy because they knew that this wasn't a good look. We didn't want to make that public, but we were trying to do a good service for what the Oregon City Police Department was asking us to do. That particular day, our law enforcement guy was gone, and the person who was in charge of facilities maintenance escorted them in. They had a new social media coordinator. They said, can I take a picture? Sure, even though anyone else would have known cameras aren't allowed on the floor, mostly because we don't want people seeing trade secrets.
Of course, yeah.
Took a picture, posted it. It blew up. And it's not like the guns, I don't even know the rules around what the ATF requires to destroy guns, but effectively I believe they have to be incinerated. They were just, and they're supposed to be cut in certain places. I don't even know if they were doing that right. It's like they were just trying to do a service to the local police department as a tactical brand.
Interesting. Do you know what happened to the social media coordinator for the police department?
No idea.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
Wow. The kind of the person that lit the powder keg, you never got to hear. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't mean to do that. Like,
no, of course not.
It was a simple moment that was a mistake from the person that worked for Benchmade saying, yes, sure you can, when if it was a different person, they would have said no. It was like just a, comedy of errors is the wrong way to say it, but multiple missteps, happenstance.
What advice would you have for somebody that might be navigating a PR crisis in knives or any sort of, I think about any business, and there will come a point when there's a misstep, right? You can do all the best things and make all the best decisions, and someday you're going to say something or do something that's just, it was wrong.
Yeah.
What would be your recommendation for navigating that?
I would say be honest and accountable, and don't expect that anything you say or do publicly at a macro level is going to change any of it, because at that point, once it gets out of your hands, there's really, you can't reel it back in. It takes on a life of its own.
So you think the say less strategy might be better than say more?
Yeah, give people the information, at least some information that's honest from your position, but like you just keep feeding the fire, and eventually it's not even about that anymore. To answer your question, like why did it blow up so much? Because people are legitimately, and were especially then, legitimately afraid that their Second Amendment rights would be violated or guns would be taken away, which for people in that community, like this, it's the Second Amendment because it's there to support the First Amendment.
Right.
Right.
And they're passionate about that.
Yeah. And so for people boycotting the brand, that's not the position I would have taken as a consumer. And I also had some more obviously intimate knowledge of the inside story. I don't fault them for that. Like one of the ways we vote in this country, big time in a capitalist country like this, is with our dollar.
Sure.
And it is true that not for the reason of destroying guns or being anti-2A, we were supporting two Democratic senators at the time that were misaligned with those values. Yeah. And so that's not wrong for somebody to say, well, I'm just not going to buy those anymore. Yeah. Now, some of the other stuff that was said was wrong and hurtful, but we don't have any. You can only control what you can control.
Right. So how did it impact you?
I was really stressed out. I was hurt. Like you're in the middle of this. I'm I'm getting a glut of negative feedback, and I bled for that brand. Like I really felt like, and still to this day, like that's a part of who I was. I would say when I worked there, I had overinvested my identity in the marketing director, Matt as a marketing director at Benchmade, and so there was a personal component to that that was probably more weight than it would have otherwise been. But I was in an MBA program at the time. It was already a stressful job. You add that on top, and it was an almost unbearable amount of stress. And where it really started to affect me was in my home life and my relationship with my wife.
Wow.
Like,
because you're bringing this home.
Right.
You're not leaving that at work.
Right. And I wasn't as, I'm not talking about like domestic violence here, but I just wasn't as thoughtful and kind and nice.
Yeah.
And I was short and, just not the kind of husband that I would want to show up to be.
Interesting. And it's fascinating to me on a human level how things ripple. And I think it's easy to sit there and like rage type behind a screen and be mad about something. But somebody on the other end of that has to receive that. And especially as a brand, right? Because you have to kind of button up. You have to like shirt and tie it a little bit.
Yeah.
But you take that stuff home.
Yep.
That's wild. How did it impact Benchmade?
I still see on some of their posts today, it pops up every now and again. Like how it impacted Benchmade was like people were sending death threats. So we hired a security guard. My wife bought a home security system. The people at work were afraid. They felt threatened. They were scared. The mood was downtrodden, but also there was a sense of collective togetherness. We had weekly, when it first kicked off, we had daily meetings that I would lead with the whole organization to tell them what was going on and walk them through it. It was trying.
Dang, dude.
Yeah.
That is really, really wild.
It really affected Les. I mean, he'd done a lot for at least the knife side of the Second Amendment side of the things, and he legitimately loved shooting guns, owned guns, and so to see that industry turn on him after all he had done was obvious to me. It was hurtful to him. He felt deeply hurt.
And probably depressed about it too, right? Like if you put into that.
Yeah, he could have been. I don't know for sure if he was depressed or what it was.
Not clinically, but just like a feeling of like weight, I'm sure.
Just
weight and disappointment.
Betrayed. On the other side, the other side felt betrayed too. So it's just like.
Interesting. So this happened February of 19. By that summer, about 5 months later, you had left Benchmade. Was part of your leaving Benchmade this whole thing, just like the stress of it and the ongoing, what was that like?
It was relieving and felt good to turn over a new leaf. I've been there for 11 years.
Yes.
That brand was ready for someone different to lead it too. Cool. And that's important for brand evolution. Yeah. And I knew that was the case. And every time a VP job would come up, it's like I wasn't the guy. I cut my teeth there. I didn't bring any outside experience. So, and I especially get that now coming to WorkSharp, having a more dynamic range of experience and how that builds an ability to solve problems, think about solutions differently, to have seen it somewhere else and here. So I don't think I was the right guy to lead that either. And I knew at the time I wasn't going to be the guy. Add the stress on top of that, and my wife Lacey was like, we can go anywhere. It just can't be this anymore because. And
so you uprooted. I mean, you moved from the Portland area down to Medford, Oregon.
Yep.
Took this job with WorkSharp.
Yep.
And now you're the Chief Commercial Officer.
Yes.
Which means you're managing marketing, customer service, product development too.
Yep. Product management. Product development's engineering.
Okay, so you've been in this job now for about what, 4 or 5 years?
I started as the director of marketing. I did that for 3. I've been chief commercial officer for going on 2.
Cool.
Yep.
And part of the reason you wanted to come down and be on the show is you guys are working on something new and exciting.
Yes.
We have the boxes for it here.
Yeah.
What's going on with these boxes, Matt? I can see on the side of this, WorkSharp knives. You guys are a sharpening company. Correct me if I'm not correct.
Yep.
Typically.
Yeah, we've been a metal a metal grinding company, starting with industrial drill bit sharpeners.
With Drill Doctor,
and then,
right?
well, before that even with Derex.
Yep.
And then Drill Doctor was the consumer version. And then being that we had an expertise in metal grinding or metal removal for sharpening, it was a logical fit to go into knife sharpening. And now as a knife sharpening company, it seems like a logical fit to try our hand in knives.
Work Sharp Knives. Can I tease this just a little bit?
Yeah, there you go.
Quick tease. There it is. Comes in this box.
Yep.
Lovely packaging, by the way. This will roll out, you're saying about June-ish, right?
Yep, Blade Show.
Why? I mean, I think of Work Sharp. It's in your name. It's sharpening, right?
Yeah.
Why is Work Sharp going into knives?
I think and I've said this to the team back at the office, I don't think in our careers we will ever find a categorical expansion that is more logical than going from the company that has been creating edges to the company now delivering the edge to be used.
Cool.
You know, like going from knife sharpening to knives. We used to spend a lot of time at Benchmade thinking like, well, what's the next product category we should expand into? And it was really hard. It was an obvious thing, not that it's going to be easy, but it was an obvious logical step.
And Benchmade, I think to their credit, I mean, you look at these three knives in particular. You've got a 940, a Griptilian, and a Bug Out. This is the premium version.
Yep.
What did you call it?
Bougeot.
The Bougeot.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a Hans Albing, I think. Yeah.
I love that. But like this is such an established like style feeling. It's an institution.
Yes.
Literally, Benchmade was started in 1987, the year I was born.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to remind myself that because I'm like, oh man, they're so big. Like you look at their SHOT Show booth and it's like enormous, and there's like rodeo clowns, and you're like, oh man, like I got space cats over here. But they're such an institution, and I would say you guys are a very similar institution when it comes to sharpening. Now you're going to be entering this space of knives. Does that make you nervous?
No, because we talk internally about this. Like, what's most important to us is that we maintain a thriving and successful knife sharpening business.
Yeah.
And we hope that this is something more than fun, but lucky for us, we're not going to lose focus on the thing that is actually maintaining our success, even though this is a potential opportunity to definitely get into a bigger category.
Sure.
And who knows where it goes someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to, and unfortunately I can't show the knife yet. You've got it media embargoed.
I can talk to you a little bit about it.
But the thing I love about it is they've done a really wonderful job taking what is a work sharp and the soul of the thing, even like your logo, the angular sort of feeling to the entire brand, and smashing it into the product beautifully. I am excited for the release. I think it will do really well. And you've done it in ways, not just on a design, like an aesthetic level, but on a function level. Is there a key feature you can talk about with this thing?
So there are two key features I'll talk about. I mean, aside from it having like the premium blade steels. One is that the handle is cast magnesium. So it is super duper light. A metal handle, and that's sweet. And two, in this particular, our first model that we'll bring to market, it has a cartridge mechanism, and
can I show the cartridge?
Yeah, you can show the cartridge.
I think I have a cartridge in here.
Yeah, you do. It'll come manual. It's a push button, lock, close, lock, open. It'll come manual, and then with one pivot screw in the back, you can pull that out. It takes about 45 seconds once you get good at it. You can convert it to an automatic.
So this is the auto spring right there.
That's correct.
So it ships manual.
Yep.
With all the springs to make it an auto.
Yep.
That's pretty dang cool.
So you get like two knife functions for the price of one.
And I wish we could show it, but there are two sizes too. One is Ben's size, and one is like normal person size.
Yeah.
So there's a
Matt
small
size.
Yeah. I like an under 3-inch knife.
Yep.
And I think the other one is what, 3 1/4?
I like 3.5, 3 1/4.
Yep. So that is an exciting development. Matt, thank you for sharing your story. But we're not done yet with you. We have more to do.
Good.
So we got Matt on for the rest of the show. We're going to move into the Knafs newsletter. This week's winner was Rick R. from Waynesboro, Virginia. Matt, what we do is we give away a lander every week via our newsletter. So if you are signed up to our newsletter, you are entered to win every single week in perpetuity a lander one. So congrats to Rick this week. So other Knafs news, we just released the Lander 5 on Kickstarter. Have you seen this one?
No.
Handle it. Give it a whirl. So this one came from this idea. I've worked with the Boy Scouts and young men at church for a long time. And I always wanted like a $25, $30 knife. And so we came out with the Lander 5. And it's going to be right in that price range. It's $25 on Kickstarter. It ends today. The day this video comes out, March 28th. Comes in a stonewash as well as a black stonewash. So 8CR14 MOV steel. This is not a premium knife. You look at this knife in S90V, and you look at this knife. These are the other like two very different sides of the spectrum.
For two very different people.
Exactly. Like, how much does this one cost? Do you remember?
I would guess $350.
$350.
That'd be my guess with the carbon fiber and the M390, maybe $299, $300. I don't know.
So we'll get into this in just a second. But Matt, why do companies design in different price points? And you guys do this all the time at Worksharp. You've got this sharpener that's what, $30?
Yeah.
35?
Right.
And then you've got one that I think up to $250.
$450.
$450 for a sharpener
for the Precision Adjust Elite that just came out. Yeah.
Holy smokes!
Yep.
That's a lot of.
It goes down from here, and we start at $8 and go up to $450.
So why do you play in those price ranges?
Because there's people who can afford different things, and there are different parts in their sharpening journey. So we play in two different ways. We've got different solutions for different types of sharpening needs, and we've got different price points for every different type of budget or interest. Like somebody who's loosely into knife sharpening might spend $40 on it, $35 on a GFS, but they're not going to spend $400 on a Precision Adjust Elite.
I would never spend $400.
It wouldn't.
It comes in like a Pelican case.
Yes, it does.
I'm like, where am I going to put a Pelican case? Sharpening? No. Like, I don't.
You wouldn't get value out of that.
No.
And that's what we focus on, is being able to deliver max value. It's the same thing we're doing with the knives, leaning into our value chain and our supply chain to be able to create things for people that perform at a level that is much higher than the price they paid, which is the formula for value. It's performance divided by price.
One thing, Matt and I went to breakfast, and one thing I love about Matt is he almost starts to sound like a marketing MBA course. Say that equation again.
Value is performance divided by price.
I love that.
So you want to make sure that the performance that you're delivering equals more in thought or felt or experienced dollars than the price that they paid.
I love that. Somebody put that in the comments. We can all reference it later because that stuff is cool. And I think when you're a product manager, you're thinking about those things. It's cool to see your history having product managed at Benchmade and now at Worksharp a bit.
Yeah.
And how that kind of comes out. And even just like, what did you say? We were Einstein's and we were talking about how many options there are. You said
the jam experiment.
The jam experiment. But what did you say? Skew reduction.
Oh, skew rationalization.
Skew rationalization. Yeah. What is that, Matt?
Skew rationalization is just when like we were eating bagels or at least ordering bagels, and we're looking at the menu and there's like 80 options, and Jamie says, you know, can I break the fourth wall here?
No, Jamie is part of the game.
Okay, great. Jamie says, man, at my age, I just want 5 options. And that is the game that we're trying to play. Like, you don't want too many options because people wind up with purchase anxiety or like analysis paralysis, which I definitely do in the fishing world, trying to buy fishing tackle.
Burden of choice.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So it's our job as effective managers to use the information we have about the products, and like regardless of how much we love them, like which products are selling well, follow that and discontinue the products that aren't, so that when people show up, that they're not flooded, they're not having to like comb through 400 options when really you could give them 10 and it would meet their needs and equate to a positive, whole number plus on the value formula.
I love that. You clearly went to MBA school, and I paid the seat fee and dropped out. We need all types, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Couple other things from Knafs News. If you are going to Blade Show Atlanta, Worksharp, Carry Commission, and Knafs will be hosting a 5K. It's called the Pit to Fit 5K. It'll be Saturday morning. I'm going to leave a sign up in the description so that we can get this thing launched. You're a runner, Matt. Are you going to run this?
I will.
Last year, I only got beat by one person. And you know, like when you run a 5K and like you kind of hang with somebody the whole time? You know who beat me?
Andre?
Josh Warren.
Oh, he did.
He did. Josh is one of your employees at Worksharp.
Yep.
And
works on our team.
This course is brutal because it goes down the hill and then you got to go back up the hill. And we hung all the way to like the last quarter mile, and then he smoked me. I'm coming for you, Josh. That's Fit to Fit 5K at Blade Show Atlanta. Additionally, in Knafs News, the Lander 6 has launched. We actually had a Moon Crew question. I'm going to combine news and Moon Crew. We had a question about the Lander 6. People wanted to see it. So talking about price points and how to manage and navigate those price points. I have some of these Boy Scouts that come into the shop right here, and they'll be like, Ben, I have $10, $15, $20 burning a hole in my pocket. What do I do?
Yeah.
And we only sell things above $45 at this point. And I'm like, I wanted a knife that you could walk in. And these two things are kind of into the same category. $25, $15.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact final price on this, but we basically wanted to play with what would be a keychain knife or a knife that somebody is just barely getting into them. I know a lot of women who won't carry something like this.
My wife carries an Infidel.
Okay.
Yeah.
My wife is like, make it smaller, right? That's amazing. Your wife is hardcore.
She is.
I like
She's
that.
a tiny redhead.
That's amazing. But I look at it and I say, who would carry this? Well, somebody just getting into knives. Somebody that just wants something easy to open boxes. So that is the Lander 6. Now, within this question in the Moon Crew, somebody asked this, and I wanted to make you answer this as well. If it'll pull up here. Oh, it all broke. Every time we go to the iPad, it breaks. Okay, cool. So we showed some detailed photos of the Knafs Lander 6. These two guys, AJ Vanderweed, he says, sorry but no thanks, another tiny knife. For the love of all that is holy, please make the Lander 7 an adult size knife. What is an adult size knife to you, Matt?
I don't know if I would say there. I get what he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I think an adult could use any size knife. I would say something that generally would fit the like height of my hand. I have a pretty average size hand height-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a 2
adult size.
3/4 to 4-inch knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blade
like it.
length. Yeah.
Joe Schwab, talking about the Lander 6, said, feel like Ben is going the wrong direction on this. There's a reason the Lander 2 is the best seller, size and function. Smaller than the 1, seriously. Mm-hmm. So you don't get to see in my brain, but why am I, and we've already kind of talked about this, but why does a product manager play around with size and shape and price points? What is the benefit to that within a brand?
Well, I think the first benefit is you wind up with SKU redundancy after a while. Like you can't just make the same thing over and over and over again.
What do you mean by that? SKU redundancy.
SKU redundancy. So
is this SKU redundancy right here?
No, but having 40 versions of the bug out winds up being SKU redundant. Now, that's not to say that you can't be successful with 40 versions of a bug out, and it may be true that people want more Banter 2s. So you can also make those, which you do in a lot of different varieties. Yeah. People also want different opportunities for different handles, materials, blade shapes, and some people's preference is to have 4 of the same knife, and some people want some different things. And the only way for us to figure that out as product managers is to really stretch the edges and spread the range and then see what sells, and then if it doesn't, SKU rationalize.
Then you cull the herd.
You cull the herd.
As it were. Right. See, and I love talking to you about this because this is what we live day to day. The reason we're doing a Lander 6 is because I see a little hole in the market that I think, what if we threw something into that hole? Yeah. And it could break and not sell. And it might do great. You
might have somebody that has 4 Banters is like, I want something for the keychain for my quad.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So you kind of almost have to like poke and prod and then find out, okay, this is an opportunity or it's not.
Yes.
And we were actually talking about this when you were product managing at Benchmade. You kind of like throw things against the wall, see what sticks, and then run with it.
That's the best way to do it because you can do all the market research in the world that you want, but we talked about like perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
Like, so if you're spending all the time on the front end and you never go to market because you keep knocking the ideas down to make the perfect thing, don't do that. Make volumes of things and then let somebody actually come to the table and pull out their wallet as opposed to trying to ask them, would you buy this or not?
I have a follow-up question. This is something we talk about around the office a lot. Many companies, particularly Chinese knife companies right now, are coming out with so many new models every single month. And it kind of feels like that throw it against the wall strategy, see what sticks. Is there an upper limit to that?
I think
At
so.
what point does it just become noise?
Well, The same as we were talking about, like purchase anxiety.
Yeah.
That can happen in launch cycles, and it's hard to even be able to tell enough stories. People get lost inside of those launch cycles. So I do think if you're launching too many knives, then you don't just have a problem with breadth of your line, you have a problem with breadth of your launch.
Oh,
What am I supposed to focus on here? You're showing me 40 knives that you brought out this year. So there's this...
Breadth of the line and breadth of the launch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
When does your book come out?
It doesn't.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Dang it. I was hoping for that.
Someday. I don't know if I have the focus required to write a book.
But you know it incredibly well. It's cool to see. You obviously went to school.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this for decades, almost 2 decades, yeah?
School was formative for me about like maybe learning that some of the technical terms or why things worked, especially in finance the way they did. Yeah. Everything I learned was actually through getting my hands in it and working.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. This is from Kelly Wallace in the Moon Crew. It says, okay, Ben, hear me out. I know you have an aversion to aggressive-looking pointy knives, but as someone who came of age in the 80s, I need this to happen. Instead of the Lander 6, how about the Highlander? He wants it to be a sword. So we combined the Edge of Intelligence and Moon Crew moment, and we ended up with the Knafs Lander sword. Jamie plugged this into Gemini or one of these AIs, and it gave us a sword. And Jamie said, make it more representative of Knafs, include space kitties. So the AI machine literally stuck the space kitties like crawling up the sword. We were thinking more of like a bejeweled kitty or something.
They don't even look very space-esque.
No.
Space-esque, not to be confused with SpaceX, but yeah, they just look like little cartoon kitties.
Yeah, and then it's like, please integrate the space kitties into the sword's design, and I think it put them inside of bubbles.
It did.
It felt... I love this stuff.
At least they got some oxygen in the bubbles. So
they
can
do.
Last in outer space.
Yeah,
for a
so
while.
they're connected to the sword.
That's right.
It improves cutting performance by 25%, I've heard. Kelly, I hope that suffices for now. Swords. You ever wanted to design a sword or put a sword in your line?
No, but I did have a friend who had a samurai sword on his wall above his television that he said was his home defense weapon, and somebody broke into his house and stole the samurai sword.
No way.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love it. With that, we're going to go to the Ship Shape Sharpening Shop and throw it to Keith.
Okay. Welcome to the Ship Shape Sharpening Shop. My name is Keith, and today we've got a SOG Topo Meridian. I feel so tactical when I hold this thing. I mean, look at those topo lines. Look at that swoopy blade. It's so pointy. And look at that beautiful large pocket clip. Very interesting knife. You've got a back lock here that also locks into place. Don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess. But we've got a cool Gerber here. This is a Gerber Myth. Unknown stainless, but I really like this thing. I think it's kind of cool, man. It comes with this sheath right here. Ambidextrous. You know, you can swap it the other way. Super thin blade of kind of an unknown stainless, but just like a really good knife, I would say, to like throw in any tackle box or whatever. Nice and flexible. I don't know. I like this thing. So, and then we've got this beautiful husk knife right here. These have received a lot of attention on the internet as of late. Good or bad? We'll leave that up to you. Anyways, thank you guys for visiting the Ship Shape Sharpening Shop. Back to the desk.
Thank you, Keith. I always love seeing what Keith does. Although we haven't shot it yet, we have literally no idea what he is going to be sharpening today. Now, Matt, you were just telling me that you guys are starting a Facebook group for Worksharp.
Yep.
Tell me about it.
A Facebook group for Worksharp knives, specifically.
Ooh.
And we have an Instagram page for Worksharp knives. So even though we couldn't show them today, that will be the first place that somebody can go and
Is this
take
live already? Can I go join
Yeah,
right
I think
now?
it's live and you can join
Okay.
right now.
We'll do our best to link it in the comments.
Yeah, so the first looks at the knives publicly will happen on those pages, forums.
Can I tell you a joke that I heard? I feel like this should be the theme of your group. The joke was, and this came from somebody on the internet in one of our channels, I don't remember who it was, don't know where the credit goes, but they said, if you're ever lost, start sharpening a knife and someone will show up to tell you you're doing it wrong. And I thought, that is hilarious. So I feel like if combining a Worksharp knife plus a group, like that is You could call it the Lost Boys group,
I like it.
and that's where everyone congregates. Think
That's
about
part of
it.
the idea. We want to get the comments, the feedback on what we're doing.
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
Good.
So we will link that down in the description, and I would assume that you're going to have knife talk, and probably the best sharpening talk on the internet would be my expectation there.
Indeed.
Can I get a royalty if you call it Lost Boys Sharpening Group?
Yeah, I don't know what you need, but we can negotiate that, I'm sure.
I love it. Matt, let's talk about running changes. What is a running change?
Are you asking me what a running change is?
I am, yeah.
It's when you're in production with something and you don't stop production, but you change an aspect of the thing and you continue to run.
Do they happen often?
All the time.
All the time.
Yes,
so
all the time.
We've got a running change happening on our Lulu. So this is the original. We went with the raw Magna Cut. It gives it, you ever seen that finish? It kind of like a hammered finish on it. So what we found is that your tolerance varies with raw Magna Cut. And so we were ending up with bevel grinds on the Lulu that were inconsistent. Yep. And so we were like, enough of that, we're changing it. So we actually went to a stonewash finish on the Lulu to get those grinds more consistent with our supplier. Still Magna Cut, okay. Yep. And honestly, if you look at them next to each other, you can tell there's a difference, especially if you run your hand across it. Yep. But that is a running change we're doing, and then we changed the laser jimping on the back. So we went from laser cut jimping there to saw cut jimping.
Do you get more of a bite with the saw cut?
You get more consistency.
Okay.
It is, I mean, you can feel it. So you get a little bit more bite on there.
Yeah, it's nice.
Versus that one. But the big thing is...
I feel like it's a big difference.
It's a big difference, but it's, to me, on a manufacturing side, it's more of a consistency difference because some of the original Lulus kind of had like a little bit of slag left in the jimps. Can we call them jimps? So kind of a fun little thing. It's this idea of constantly trying to improve our product and make it better every day.
Just actually thicker?
Slightly thicker too. I think it's
more stout.
Yep. Yeah. Just a hair thicker, and that comes from we're buying it raw here. We're Blanchard grinding and double disc grinding there. So you're getting it's more processed as well. Nice. So fun little running change. New vocabulary. I feel like somebody should be compiling all the vocabulary words in the comments today. Running change. What was that other one? SKU rationalization. It's all there. All right. We're on to Mailbox. First thing we've got today, and we'll start here, is the Vegemite from our friends at Adventure Carry in Australia. Now, I didn't bring a knife to the table, but I feel like pick your favorite. I don't know if they're clean or not, so I brought some alcohol to clean the knife.
I cut steaks at restaurants. They give you those crummy knives with a pocket knife all the time. Just don't ever look at the edge of your knife, your daily carry, under a magnifying glass.
Oh, I don't want to see it.
So dirty.
This one was at Blade, Texas, so I'm just gonna send it. But pick yours. What would you like to spread your Vegemite with here, Matt?
Let's go with this new guy.
The brand new guy. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna clean it off just for our own satisfaction. Safety first, you know. You go ahead.
Okay.
So I've heard that the trick to Vegemite is to spread a very thin layer.
Okay.
Don't do like butter. Do more like, I can't remember what they told me. Yeah. Oh, you might have gone too deep.
Really?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll get mine loaded up here too. Soggy toast.
Is it
by the
salty?
Way.
It's hard to spread on
have you
soggy
smelled
toast.
It? Smell it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What does that smell?
Just a thin layer.
It's an interesting smell.
Oh, this is
hard to describe. It's hard to get across the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to make it to the middle, though, if I'm being real honest with you.
Why did you butter the toast if we weren't going to eat
it? Jamie asked the internet, do you butter the Vegemite toast?
Oh.
And the AI machine said, yes, you butter it. But it's definitely soggy toast at this point.
Try to qualify, well, what if you're not going to eat the toast for 2 hours?
We didn't put that in the AI machine. Cheers.
Cheers. It tastes like top ramen.
Really?
I think so.
It just gives it like a...
That's what it reminds me of. Like if you ripped open the package of the flavor, the seasoning in a top ramen.
It's not bad, but I don't think I'd sign up for that on a regular basis.
Me neither.
Aussies love this stuff. I'm a no-go, boys. Mates. I got some like behind my teeth. Oh, that's no good.
I'm going for another bite.
I'm done there. Mitch and Don, thank you for the Vegemite. To all our friends down under, we can appreciate you, even without sharing your viewpoints on Vegemite. Get some water in you there. All right. We've had a bunch of stuff come into the shop. I got to show you guys this. This was a box, a full-on box of chicken feed stuff from our friends at the Happy Hen. Now, I don't know anything about the Happy Hen, but look at this. These are Lander 2 scales. I'll pull them out of the bag here. The guys at the Happy Hen made us some Happy Hen Lander 2 scales
That's cool.
and sent us chicken feeds. So this is going to Keith's Chickens. He owns chickens. Are you a chicken guy?
No, but we have a woman on our team, our graphic designer, Faith, is a chicken lady.
Really?
And they have like 35 or 40 chickens, but she brings eggs into work that we buy from her. Fantastic.
Dude, that's like gold.
It is like gold. Yeah.
People
This is
send us
actual
random-
bugs.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like mealworm larva, bug
Mealworm
blend.
and bug blend.
People send us weird stuff, and I love it. Like, I think the thing about knife guys that just makes me very happy, knife people, is it runs through all of these categories. Like, we have a bunch of mountain bikers that, like, I walked into their shop and walked in one day and they're like, Ben? And I'm like, I've never been here in my life. Bunch of knife guys. Chicken guys, like, everybody loves knives.
We all share an inner dork.
We do. We do. Okay, last thing today. Well, we got 2 more things. This is my Blade Show haul. I'm just going to run through it and hand them to you.
Okay.
The Clyde from Giant Mouse. Kind of fun, kind of pokey stabby. I think that's a Jens Onso and Jesper Voxnes collaboration. Kind of fun from them. This is from my friends at Tactile Knife Company. Michael handed this one to me, and you actually opened this on the table. What were your thoughts?
I felt like it like brought an element of danger to your bottle opening adventures.
I thought the same thing. They handed it to me with a bottle of Topo Chico, and I went to open it, and I'm like, oh, there is a fulcrum happening toward my hand with a blade. But Michael's point was a lot of old, like, trapper knives and things had a bottle opener right there with the knife.
Yeah, so it's like a modern take on a slip joint with a truly old school blade.
Yeah, exactly. This one is called it's spelled Bexar. It's supposedly a county in Texas, pronounced not Bexar.
It's got nice walk-in top.
Oh yeah, Tactile does amazing work. And then I also got this knife from Nuge. I forget what this one is called, but a little bit of a fixed blade. I was asking him about it. He's like, look, I make knives that are kind of like rough-hewn knives is the way he put it. He's like, I want to make more knives, and if I'm sitting there hand sanding it or hand polishing it all day, I want to get more knives out. So that one's kind of cool. Little
That is
guy.
quite the Scandi on that.
Yeah. Kind of a fun one. And then last from the show, I thought this was pretty cool. I don't know what the handle material. This is from Designer Grips. Handcrafted holsters and grips, exotic leather. This is some sort of elephant or feel that. I don't know what the leather is.
Like actual elephant.
So they 3D print it. They take the Lander 1 scale file that you can get on our website for free, and then they 3D print it, and then they wrap the leather around the outside of it. And in talking to one of my friends that has tested these, he said it doesn't come off. So kind of cool.
It's really cool.
Random, but like it almost feels like a mouse or something.
Oh, I like the way it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think that was all from Blade Show Texas. Last on the list today, last but not least, this has been a wide-ranging show, Matt.
Yes,
Highly enjoyable.
Yeah, good.
Fresh prints. So we always bring on something that we've 3D printed. This one is 3D printed by our friend Randall at Chroma Scales. So we do these limited runs of moon scales. So this is the actual topography of the moon. We do 100 units, and each one has a different piece of topography from the moon, and then we never reprint those again. So it's the same on both sides, and then you got a little moon lander on the end of that. So that's Lander 4 in the Moonlander edition with the moon dust finish. And those are 3D printed. You ever seen, man, I'm gonna butcher this, powder 3D printing?
Yes.
It's crazy. because it's like UV printing onto this powder, and then it just like magically you pull it out. The world is a wild place.
It is.
I love it. Matt, where can the good people find you?
Like
worksharp.com.
Yeah, they can find us on Instagram handle. Nobody cares about that, man. Worksharptools.com.
Worksharptools.com, and then all of the socials.
Yeah, all the social, and of course our products are widely distributed at all the.
Literally, you can walk into like any Cabela's or any big box store, and Workshop is there.
Yep.
Fantastic. Matt, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
You're welcome.
Guys, definitely like and subscribe. We'll have another video coming out for you in a couple weeks.